Dean tapped the bowl of his wine glass with a butter knife, and everybody at his mother's condo table looked up. "To Mom," he said, "for surviving 3 years in this building without murdering the board." Evelyn lifted her glass. "The night is young." Paula laughed. I did too, because that part was funny. Dean waited until the laughter faded. "And to Claire, the cheapest woman I know. She can turn $1 into a hostage situation." His mother smiled at me over the candles as if I owed them gratitude for being included. The joke was about the building's new $6,800 lobby assessment, half of which Evelyn believed I should pay. I had said no 20 minutes earlier. I stayed quiet because her $742 monthly condo fee still came out of my personal checking account. Then I looked down at the roast chicken and forgot about the money. It was sitting on my mother's blue-rimmed platter. For a second, I thought I had mistaken it for something similar. Plenty of people owned old white stoneware. Plenty of platters had cobalt vines around the edge. Then Evelyn turned it while carving, and I saw the chip beside the left handle. A dark crescent stained the crack, where cranberry glaze had seeped into it during the last Thanksgiving my mother was alive. I put down my fork. Paula was still laughing. "Hostage situation? That's good." "It's not even mine," Dean said, sitting down. "I stole it from a guy at work." "You improved it," Evelyn said. I looked at the platter again. The chicken had been arranged with rosemary sprigs, pearl onions, and slices of lemon. Evelyn had tucked little paper cuffs around the ends of the drumsticks. She had always been able to make a meal look as though a magazine photographer might arrive at any moment. "Where did you get that?" I asked. She followed my gaze. "The platter?" "Yes." "Oh." She glanced at Dean, then back at me. "Your house." The answer was so ordinary that it took me a moment to understand it. "My house?" I needed something large enough for the chicken. Dean reached for the wine bottle. Mom had those tiny oval dishes. Remember, the brown ones? I didn't look at him. "How did it get here?" He poured more wine into my glass, though I hadn't touched what was already there. "I brought it over." "When?" "Last Thursday, I think. Last Thursday, I had been in Milwaukee for a supplier conference. My flight home had been delayed 6 hours, and Dean had texted that he missed me 3 times. He'd also sent a picture of our empty couch with the caption, "Cold and lonely." Evelyn carved through a thigh joint. The knife scraped the platter with a sound that went straight through me. "You weren't using it," she said. "It was all the way in the back of the cabinet." Paula's smile thinned. She looked from Evelyn to me and picked up her water. I said, "You went through my dining room cabinet?" "Dean did. I wouldn't rummage." "She didn't rummage," Dean said. "I found it." He had found it behind the salad bowl I used twice a week, beneath the folded linen towel I had wrapped around it to keep the rim from knocking against the shelf. Evelyn laid a slice of chicken on my plate. "There, breast meat, no skin." I remembered. I looked at the slice. "You remembered what?" "That you don't eat the skin." "I eat the skin." "Well, you're always removing things." Dean made a tiny sound into his glass, caught between a laugh and a warning. In our marriage, that sound usually meant I should help him make a moment disappear. I picked up my napkin and placed it beside my plate. Evelyn's dining room was technically part of the living room, separated from the kitchen by a gray quartz island. When we had first toured the condo, the listing agent had called it open concept entertaining. Evelyn had called it a box with a stove in it. 3 years later, she had filled the box with cream upholstery, brass lamps, and framed watercolors of places she had never visited. The lobby assessment packet lay on the island beside paint samples in shades called Alabaster Breath and Coastal Fog. Evelyn had chosen a building with a doorman, a heated garage, a fitness room she disliked, and a rooftop terrace she used once a year. The monthly fee covered all of it. It covered snow removal, landscaping, elevator maintenance, common area insurance, and the salary of a man named Leonard who knew the delivery preferences of all 64 units. It did not cover the lobby renovation. That was why we were celebrating the 3rd anniversary of Evelyn moving in, while also being asked to rescue her from a carpet she described as the color of old liver. Paula tried to restart the conversation. "The potatoes are wonderful, Ev." "They're cold," Evelyn said. "They're not. They are by now." Dean reached under the table and put his hand on my knee. His thumb moved once, a private instruction to soften. I moved my leg away. His hand stayed suspended for a second before he reached for his fork. "Claire had a long week." "I didn't say anything," I said. "No, but you have your conference face." "What's my conference face?" "The one that makes sales reps confess things they haven't done yet." Paula gave a brief smile, but Evelyn busied herself straightening the rosemary. The room had shifted. Dean felt it, and his instinct was to make me responsible for the temperature. I stood and picked up the platter. Evelyn still had the carving fork embedded in the chicken. "What are you doing?" "Taking this home." "Now?" "Yes." "There's a chicken on it." "I see that." "Claire," Dean said quietly. I carried the platter to the island. The chicken slid half an inch in its juices. Evelyn came after me with the carving fork in one hand, her mouth open in disbelief. "You're going to carry off my dinner?" "Just the platter. In the middle of the meal?" I opened the cabinet beneath the island because I knew where everything was. I had organized it when Evelyn moved in. The plastic containers were stacked by size, lids in a wire rack. 3 years later, they were still arranged exactly as I had left them. I chose the largest one and lifted the chicken into it with the serving fork. A pearl onion rolled onto the counter. "Careful," Evelyn said. "I'm being careful. You're dripping grease." Dean came around the table. "Can we take it later?" "No. It's a plate. It was my mother's. I know that." I stopped with the plastic lid in my hand. "Then why did you give it away?" "I didn't give it away. I brought it over for dinner." "You took it out of our house while I was gone." "My mother needed a platter, Claire. I didn't think I needed a permission slip." That was when Paula stood. She carried her plate to the island, scraped her chicken and potatoes into the container with Evelyn's, then put the empty plate in the sink. "I should head out," she said. Evelyn stared at her. "We haven't had cake." "Save me a piece. You drove 40 minutes, and now I get to drive 40 minutes back." Paula kissed her sister's cheek, squeezed Dean's shoulder, and paused beside me. "Good seeing you, Claire." Her eyes dropped to the platter. She didn't say anything else. At the entryway, she pulled her keys from the cut glass bowl Evelyn kept on a narrow table. The keys clinked against one another. For some reason, the sound made me glance over. There were more keys in the bowl than Evelyn needed. Paula left before I could look closely. Evelyn pressed the lid onto the container with sharp snaps. "I suppose we'll all eat cake from our hands." "The dessert plates are above the coffee cups," I said. "I know where my plates are." I put them there. Dean rubbed both hands over his face. "Can everybody please come sit down?" I washed the platter. I used the soft side of the sponge because the glaze was crazed with thin lines, and my mother had always said the dishwasher would finish what time started. The cranberry stain remained in the chip. Of course it did. Behind me, Evelyn carried the chicken back to the table in its cloudy plastic box. "This is humiliating," she said. I dried the platter with a clean towel. "For who?" She didn't answer. Dean followed me to the entryway while I wrapped the towel around the platter. "You made your point." "What point was that?" "That you're upset." "I asked you a question, and I answered it." "No, you told me you didn't think you needed permission. I asked why you gave away something that belonged to my mother." "For God's sake, I didn't give it away." "Was I supposed to know you took it?" "I forgot to mention it." "Did you forget before or after I got home?" His jaw moved. Dean had a small muscle near his left ear that jumped when he felt cornered. I used to find it endearing because it made him look like a boy trying not to smile. Lately, I had begun to understand it as the first visible sign that he was arranging the facts into a shape he preferred. Evelyn spoke from the table. "It will come back cleaner than it arrived." Dean closed his eyes. I picked up my coat with one hand and held the platter against my ribs with the other. "Are you coming?" We came together. That wasn't my question. He looked toward his mother. She had sat down in front of the plastic container, alone at the head of the table, with her anniversary cake still boxed on the counter. "I can't leave her like this. She's eating chicken, Dean. She hasn't been hit by a bus." "You know what I mean." I did. He meant he couldn't leave her with the feeling I had caused. My feelings could ride home by themselves. I walked out. Leonard was behind the lobby desk, reading a paperback with a lighthouse on the cover. He glanced at the towel-wrapped platter under my arm, then at my face. "Everything all right, Mrs. Mercer?" "Fine." "Elevator acting up again?" "No." "Then we're ahead of schedule." The lobby carpet had been cleaned recently, and the chemical smell caught in the back of my throat. A brass display stand held renderings of the proposed renovation. In the picture, the old brown carpet had become pale limestone tile. The walls had become white oak, and the desk where Leonard sat had transformed into something resembling a hotel bar. "Payment deadline," the sign said. "August 1st. Outside, the air was thick and warm. I put the platter on the passenger seat and looped the seatbelt over it. My mother had done the same thing with pies. I could see her pressing a fingertip into the buckle and telling me a good crust deserved better than most people. I drove home without turning on the radio. Dean arrived 53 minutes later. I knew because I was sitting at the kitchen table looking through the dining room cabinet. The platter had not been the only thing missing. 2 embroidered napkins were gone, along with the silver cake server from our wedding set. The cream table runner I used at Thanksgiving was not on its shelf. Neither was the small cut glass pitcher my mother had kept beside her bed. Dean came in and set his keys on the counter. "Did you take these too?" I asked. I had written the missing items on the back of an envelope. He glanced at it. "Take what?" I read the list. "The napkins are at Mom's," he said. "The cake thing might be too." "I don't know about the pitcher." "The cake thing." "I'm tired, Claire." "So am I." He loosened his tie and opened the refrigerator. "Mom said you could have everything back. They're already mine." You know what I meant. He took out a bottle of water, then stood with the refrigerator door open while he drank. Cold light spread across the floor between us. "Did she ask for those things?" I said. "She said her table looked bare." "And you went shopping in our house." "That's not fair." Which word wasn't fair? He shut the refrigerator. "My father died. She moved out of the house she lived in for 34 years. I wanted the condo to feel like a home. So you gave her pieces of mine. I brought over a few things we never use." "You don't get to decide that. We're married. It's our stuff. It was my mother's before you knew me." His face changed then, not into guilt, but frustration, as if I had introduced a technicality after the agreement had already been signed. "You always do this," he said. "Do what?" "Turn something small into a test nobody knows they're taking." He went upstairs. The next morning, I carried a mug of coffee into the small room we called an office and opened the accordion folder labeled Evelyn Condo. I had created it 3 years earlier, when 6 months of helping her had still sounded temporary. The automatic fee had started because Evelyn's old checking account was tangled in estate paperwork after her husband's death. The condo portal allowed only one electronic payment account, and mine was available. Dean had promised to move it once things settled. Things had settled. The payment had not moved. I spread the records across the desk. 36 condo fees, 3 insurance renewals, an emergency plumbing bill, 2 appliance repairs, parking charges, and smaller payments that had disappeared into ordinary months. Then I found a bank statement clipped behind a property tax notice. Evelyn's survivor's pension appeared as a monthly deposit. So did rent from the man using her second parking space. Beneath the statement was a receipt from a travel agency. She had already paid a deposit on a 12-day river cruise and transferred $9,600 into a vacation account. Dean had told me she sometimes skipped groceries to cover her prescriptions. I sat there until my coffee went cold. Then I opened the condo payment portal, removed my bank information, and clicked the button that said, Cancel Recurring Payment. A warning appeared in red. Future assessments will become the unit owner's responsibility. For the first time in 3 years, I read that sentence as permission. The portal asked me to confirm twice. On the third screen, it offered to save my routing number for future convenience. I deleted that too. Behind me, a floorboard creaked. Dean stood in the doorway in yesterday's t-shirt, his hair flattened on one side. His gaze moved over the papers covering the desk. "What are you doing?" "I canceled the condo payment." He blinked. "You what?" I turned the travel receipt toward him. "Did you know about this?" He didn't need to pick it up. His eyes stopped on the agency logo, and the muscle beside his ear jumped. "When did you go through her bank statements?" "It was clipped inside the folder I've been using to manage her bills." "That doesn't make it yours to read. The money coming out of my account is mine to read about." He stepped into the room and lifted the receipt. "She's been saving for that trip since Dad got sick." "You told me she barely had grocery money." "Some months she doesn't. She gets a pension, Social Security, and $275 a month for the parking space." "It's not a full pension." "I didn't say it was. You're acting like she's rich." "I'm acting like she has an income." He dropped the receipt onto the desk. "So you just canceled it? No discussion?" "We've discussed the assessment 6 times. Last night you called me cheap in front of your family." "It was a joke. I was paying $742 a month while you made it." His face tightened. "This is about the platter. This is about a lot of things. Then tell me what they are instead of blowing up my mother's finances." I looked at the missing items list beside my keyboard. The platter, the napkins, the cake server, the table runner, the pitcher, her copies of our house key, the condo fees, the insurance, the repair calls, the assessment you promised her we'd somehow handle before you asked me. I didn't promise. You said, "We'll figure something out." In your family, "we" means I'll receive an invoice later. He leaned both hands on the desk. "She sold the house after Dad died because we told her this place was manageable." "The place is manageable. The marble lobby she wants isn't. It's not marble." "That's your objection?" He straightened and rubbed the back of his neck. "You know she can't just move again." "I didn't ask her to. I canceled one payment from one account." "The fee is due every month." "Yes, that's generally how monthly fees work." He stared at me. Humor was acceptable when he used it to round the corners off his mother. Coming from me, it became cruelty. "I'm getting coffee," he said. "Bring back our things today." He stopped in the doorway. "And her key," I added. "It's for emergencies." "She used it to shop in my dining room." "I was with her." "That is not as comforting as you think it is." My inbox chimed before he reached the stairs. The portal had notified Evelyn that her payment method had been removed. Her call came 17 seconds later. Dean looked back at my phone vibrating on the desk. "Are you going to answer?" "No. You can't send something like that and hide." "I'm not hiding. I'm drinking coffee before I speak to your mother." The phone stopped, then started again. Dean snatched it from the desk. "Don't," I said. He answered. "Mom, it's me." I held out my hand. He turned away. "No, you're not being evicted. It's an automatic email." He listened, pacing into the hall. "I know what it says. I said I know. We'll take care of it." There it was again. We. I opened a blank email while he soothed her. I addressed it to both of them and kept it simple. Beginning August 1st, Evelyn would be responsible for her condo fee, insurance, assessments, repairs, and personal household expenses. I would send her the login information and copies of any current notices. I asked that my property and every copy of our house key be returned by Sunday evening. I did not mention the dinner. I did not mention gratitude. Numbers looked better without adjectives. Dean was still on the phone when I pressed send. He appeared in the doorway a minute later. You emailed her while I was talking to her. I emailed both of you. Mom thinks you're punishing her. She can think whatever she wants. She's crying. I waited. He frowned. You don't care? I care that you automatically think her crying should make my answer different. He looked at me as if I had just admitted to poisoning a reservoir. At work on Monday, I made it through half of a contract review before Evelyn called the main office. Our receptionist, Gina, leaned into my doorway with one eyebrow raised. Your mother-in-law says there's a family emergency. She sounds physically intact. Did she tell you what the emergency is? Something about a login. I closed my laptop. Send her through. Gina pointed at me. I expect reimbursement for emotional damages. Evelyn came on the line already talking. There are 4 boxes on this screen and one says account verification. You need to enter your checking information. I don't do banking on the computer. You booked your cruise online. Silence. Then, Dean told you. The receipt was in the Condo folder. That was private. So is my routing number. It's a trip with Paula. We've discussed it for years. I hope you enjoy it. We're not discussing enjoyment. We're discussing whether I'll have a home when I return. The fee is due in 12 days. You have time to set up payment. I don't know why you're treating me like a stranger. I don't know why you're treating me like an account. Her breath caught. Whether from hurt or offense, I couldn't tell. I have always considered you family, she said. Family asks before taking things out of someone's house. I told you, Dean chose the platter, and you accepted it. I assumed my son knew what belonged to him. That sentence was so clean, I almost admired it. Please return everything on the list, I said. The picture isn't here. Then return the rest. She hung up. Gina appeared with a cup of coffee 5 minutes later and set it on my desk without asking. She had worked beside me long enough to recognize when I needed caffeine more than conversation. Logan emergency resolved? Civilization survives. Good, I already ordered lunch. I thought I ordered lunch. You did. I canceled your salad and got you a sandwich. I looked at her. She shrugged. This is why I don't have a key to your house. At 4 that afternoon, I was home early for a video meeting when the front door opened. Evelyn walked in carrying a reusable grocery bag. She stopped when she saw me at the kitchen table. Your car wasn't in the driveway. It's at the shop. Gina dropped me off. I was going to leave these on the counter. She placed the bag beside my laptop. The cream runner was folded inside, along with the 2 napkins and our wedding cake server. The silver handle was smeared with frosting. You could have rung the bell, I said. I have a key. I asked you to return it. I'm here to return your things. And the key? She put one hand into her purse, moved a lipstick and a packet of tissues, and produced a bright silver key with a square head. The key we had given her was brass. I had marked it with a dot of yellow nail polish because it was the same shape as the garage key. Where's the original? I asked. This is the key. No, it isn't. She inspected it as though the metal might confess. I had a copy made because the first one stuck. Where's the first one? In my condo somewhere. It was in the glass bowl by your door Saturday night. Her fingers closed around the copy. There was another key hanging beside it, I said. How many did you make? 1. Then give me that one and bring back the original. Her chin lifted. Dean has a key. Dean lives here. I'm his mother. You don't. The word sat between us. She had always presented her entrances as evidence of closeness. She brought soup, changed a wilting vase of flowers, moved packages inside. Once she had replaced the hand towels in our downstairs bathroom because ours looked tired. Each act was small enough that objecting made me sound inhospitable. She placed the new key on the table. You've wanted to do this for a while, she said. Do what? Separate him from me. I looked at the bag. I'm asking for a house key. You're making him choose. No, I'm making him knock before entering a house where he doesn't live. You're the one hearing that as exile. She pushed the bag toward me. The insurance is due next month. I know. And the assessment. I know. If I take money out of the cruise account now, I'll lose part of the deposit. Then you'll have to decide which loss you prefer. Her face changed. Beneath the offense, I saw fear. Not fear of homelessness. Fear of moving backward, of becoming a widow who had to count what remained. The condo's doorman and quartz counters and heated garage were proof that death had reduced her family, but not her position in it. I spent 34 years in a house where every repair was my problem, she said. Your father-in-law never noticed anything until it broke. I wanted one place where someone else handled things. The building handles them. That's what the fee pays for. And you agreed to help. For 6 months. Dean said we would make sure I was secure. The kitchen seemed to narrow around us. When did he say that? When we chose the unit. I remembered the three of us standing on Evelyn's empty balcony while the listing agent talked about sunset views. Dean had squeezed my hand and said, "We can float the fees until the estate clears. 6 months, maybe less." What exactly did he promise you? She hesitated. It was the first useful hesitation I had ever seen on her. That I wouldn't have to worry about the association costs. For how long? He didn't put an expiration date on being my son. I almost laughed, but her expression stopped me. She believed that was an answer. After she left, I called a locksmith. Dean came home while the locksmith was drilling out the front cylinder. He stood on the walkway with his briefcase hanging at his side. "You're changing the locks?" The old key was copied. "You took Mom's copy. She still has the original, and neither of us knows if there are more." The locksmith kept working. He was a broad man named Curtis, who had already told me about 3 restaurants I should avoid and 1 bowling alley with excellent wings. Now he developed an intense interest in his screwdriver. Dean lowered his voice. "You could have waited until I got home." "I could have. Then you could have spent 2 hours explaining why a lock has feelings." Curtis coughed into his fist. Dean looked at him. "You find this funny?" "No, sir. Allergies. It's November. Winter allergies." When he finished, Curtis handed me 4 keys in a small paper envelope. I gave one to Dean. "What about the others?" he asked. "I'll keep them." "So I'm not allowed to have a spare?" "You're holding one. This is my house, too." "Yes, which is why you have a key." He looked at it in his palm. I watched him realize that I had used his own argument and left him nowhere comfortable to stand. The next several days brought no explosion. They brought maintenance. Evelyn's grocery order failed because the card saved to her account had expired. She called Dean during dinner, and he looked at me across the table before getting up to solve it. A pipe beneath her kitchen sink began leaking. She called me first. I gave her the plumber's number and wished her luck. The condo office sent her a form she didn't understand. She forwarded it to me with no message. I sent it back with Leonard's extension. Each refusal took less than a minute. The hours they returned to me felt strangely heavy, as though I had to relearn how to carry my own time. On Sunday, Paula came to the door holding the cut glass pitcher. "I found this in Ev's bathroom," she said. I took it carefully. "Thank you." She kept cotton swabs in it. Of all the possible uses, that one made me laugh. Paula did too, then glanced toward the street. "She told me you canceled the cruise." "I canceled a condo payment." "I know. She also told me the lobby assessment is mandatory because the current carpet is a respiratory hazard. It's ugly. I'm not sure it's armed." Paula smiled, but it faded quickly. "Dean shouldn't have made that joke." "No. He gets that from his father. If Evelyn wanted something, Frank made it sound like everybody else had voted for it." She stepped back before I could answer. "Anyway, your pitcher." That night, Dean was unusually gentle. He cooked pasta, opened the wine I liked, and asked about work without checking his phone. For an hour, I could almost feel the old shape of us returning. Then my bank app sent an alert. A $742 electronic payment had cleared from our joint checking account. I turned the screen toward him. Dean set down his fork. "I told Mom we'd take care of it," he said. "No," I said. "You told her I would." He looked at the screen, then back at me. "It came from the joint account. That's our money. Our money for our house. We have enough to cover it." "That isn't the point. You keep saying that, but every point you make ends with money, because money is what you keep taking." His chair scraped back. "Taking? I paid a bill. A bill for a home we don't live in. My mother does. Yes, Dean, I know who lives there." He carried his plate to the sink and turned on the faucet. The water hit the dish hard enough to splash his shirt. "She would have gotten a late fee. Then she should have paid on time. You didn't even give her a chance to adjust. I gave her 12 days. She spent 6 of them calling people at my office." He shut off the water. "What do you want me to do? Stand there and watch her panic? I want you to stop creating emergencies so you can rescue her with my wallet." His shoulders dropped. For a moment, he looked tired rather than angry. "When Dad was in the hospital," he said, "she didn't know the online password for their mortgage. She didn't know who handled the utilities. She was sitting in that waiting room trying to keep him alive, and some woman called to tell her the gas payment was late. She started shaking so badly I had to hold the phone for her. I had heard pieces of that night, but never this one. I promised her she wouldn't have to feel that way again," he said. "I understand why." "No, you don't. I understand why you made the promise. I don't understand why you decided I would keep it." He stared at the dark kitchen window. Our reflections floated side by side, close enough to touch and facing different directions. "She's my mother," he said, "and I'm your wife." "That's not the same." I'm starting to notice. He slept in the guest room. In the morning, I changed my direct deposit. My employer let me divide it between accounts, so I calculated my share of the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, and the automatic transfer to our emergency savings. That amount would continue going into the joint account. The rest would go to the personal account Evelyn's condo could no longer reach. I printed the calculation and left it beside Dean's coffee. He came into the bathroom while I was putting on mascara, the paper folded in his hand. "What is this?" "A household budget. You redirected your paycheck?" "I redirected the part that doesn't pay our shared expenses." "You did that without asking me?" "Yes." He laughed once, without humor. "Unbelievable." "I showed you the numbers. This is financial abandonment. It's a spreadsheet. You don't get to separate our lives every time you're angry. I'm not separating our lives. I'm separating your promises from my income." He leaned against the doorframe. "You make more than I do." "Some years. You know my commissions have been uneven. I also know you've had 3 years to move your mother's fee onto your own account. So this is punishment." "No. Punishment would be making you repay everything I've already spent. This is me stopping." He unfolded the paper and studied it as though looking for a hidden charge. "And if something happens?" "We use emergency savings for our emergency. And Mom has income, savings, a rentable parking space, and a condo she owns. She shouldn't have to sell her home." "I didn't say she should." "You keep leaving it hanging there. What do you think should happen, Dean?" He lifted his eyes. I waited. He had answers for what I should do, what Evelyn deserved, and what a good family would provide. When asked to name his own sacrifice, he became very interested in the paper. "I have to get ready," he said. Evelyn came to the house that evening and rang the bell. The new chime startled me. She had not used it in years. She stood on the porch, holding a bakery box tied with red string. Dean was still at work. "I brought almond cake," she said. "All right." "Are you going to invite me in?" I stepped aside. She paused in the entryway, looking at the lock. "It's very shiny. It's new." I gathered that. She carried the box to the kitchen and set it down. I made coffee. She asked for tea after I had already poured water into the machine, then changed her mind and accepted coffee, because opening the tea cabinet would apparently have conceded too much. "I'm sorry dinner became uncomfortable," she said. She sliced the cake with an ordinary kitchen knife. The wedding server she had returned was back in its drawer. That's not an apology. It's an acknowledgement. Of the room's feelings, of yours. My feelings didn't take the platter. She set a slice on my plate. I'm sorry I accepted something Dean offered without confirming that he was permitted to offer it. It was the kind of sentence that wore an apology's clothes while keeping its purse close. Thank you, I said anyway. She looked surprised. I tasted the cake. It was good. Evelyn never bought bad cake, even when she claimed she couldn't afford groceries. I don't want money to destroy this family, she said. Neither do I. Then we agree. Do we? She wrapped both hands around her cup. The assessment must be paid by Friday. The management company sent another notice. You can pay it from your vacation savings. I'll lose the cruise deposit. You'll lose part of it. 20%. You could sell the parking rights. I rent the space. I don't own separate rights. Then use the rent. That covers my property taxes. I had brought the folder downstairs. I opened it and slid a yellow legal pad between us. Your regular monthly income covers the fee, insurance, utilities, groceries, taxes, and prescriptions, with about $400 left over. Her eyes narrowed. You made a budget for me. You asked me to manage your bills for 3 years. I asked you to help. This is what help looks like when someone stops hiding numbers. You haven't included hair appointments. I didn't. Or gifts, clothing, household items. I left $400. You think that is generous? I think it is what remains. She pushed the legal pad away. You and Dean spend more than that dining out. We earn it. Her face went still. I regretted the sentence as soon as I said it, not because it was false, but because it sounded like I believed grief canceled work. Evelyn had spent decades keeping a complicated man's life orderly. She had managed appointments, meals, social obligations, and every soft task her husband mistook for weather. The survivor's pension was not charity. I tried again. Your money is yours. That's exactly why mine should be mine. I don't see marriage that way. You're not in my marriage. I'm his mother. I know what he values. The front door opened. Dean entered, saw us at the table, and visibly prepared himself to become useful. Mom, I didn't know you were coming. I came to apologize. She apologized to the discomfort, I said. Evelyn ignored that. Claire thinks I should cancel the cruise. Dean put his briefcase down. You've wanted that trip for years. I know. She also thinks $400 a month is enough for me to live a decent life. That's what remains after all her listed expenses, I said. He picked up the legal pad. His gaze traveled down the figures. You included the parking rent? Yes. Mom needs that for taxes. The taxes are included. Evelyn rose and collected her purse. I'm not going to sit here and be audited. You brought up money, I said. I brought cake. She left it on the table. Dean walked her to the door. They spoke too quietly for me to hear, but I caught the rhythm. Her soft refusal, his reassurance, her pause designed to invite more reassurance. When he returned, he put the legal pad in front of me. You forgot the building reserve increase. It begins next year. And her dental work. She has a payment plan. He tapped the paper. You've made it look easy. No, I've made it visible. She's 68 years old. She's not going to rebuild her savings. I'm not asking her to rebuild anything. I'm asking her to use her savings for her own assessment. She saved for one thing that makes her happy, and I'm supposed to buy it for her by paying everything that doesn't? His phone buzzed. He checked the screen. Is it her? It's work. He turned the phone face down. The assessment deadline passed on Friday. I knew because an automated reminder arrived in the Condo email account before breakfast. The balance remained unpaid. Dean left early, claiming a client meeting. At noon, Evelyn called and asked if I intended to let penalties accumulate. Call Dean, I said. He's not answering. Then call Leonard. Leonard does not manage payments. Sounds like you know more about the building than you thought. She hung up. Dean returned home after 9 that night, smelling of rain and stale office coffee. He kissed my forehead, something he had not done all week, and asked if I wanted takeout. "What happened with the assessment?" I said. His hand remained on my shoulder. "It's handled." "How?" "I handled it." I turned to face him. "How?" I opened a line through my bank. The number seemed to press the air out of the room. "For $6,800? $7,500. There were processing fees. You borrowed money to protect her vacation savings. It's in my name. What's the payment? I can manage it." "What's the payment, Dean?" $389, unless I pay extra." His commissions had been low for 2 quarters. After his share of our mortgage and expenses, he usually had less than $500 left. You can't manage that. "I'll close 2 deals next month. And if you don't, I will." "You said that last month." His hand fell away from my shoulder. "This is why I didn't tell you. You didn't tell me because you knew it would affect our house. It won't. Your contribution to the mortgage is due in 9 days. I'll make it. And next month?" He took off his coat. "I'm not discussing my personal credit with you after you separated your paycheck. Your personal credit is being used to finance a decision you expect our household to absorb. I don't expect you to absorb anything. Then show me the payment plan." He walked upstairs without answering. 9 days later, the joint account was short $612. Dean had deposited less than half his usual amount. The mortgage payment was scheduled for the following morning. I found him in the guest room staring at his laptop. "You said you'd make it." "A commission was delayed. You knew that 3 days ago. It's coming Friday. The mortgage comes out Thursday. We have the emergency account. That is not for predictable debt. Nothing will happen if we transfer it back Friday. Something already happened." He shut the laptop. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to say you chose this. I chose not to let my mother get a lien on her home. She had money. She had plans for that money. So did I." He looked genuinely confused. "What plans?" The question hurt more than the joke at dinner. He knew what Evelyn's money meant to her. It meant security, travel, decent clothes, hair appointments, the freedom not to feel reduced. My money was simply what remained after everyone else's needs became visible. "I'm not covering your share," I said. He stood. "Then the mortgage bounces. You have 48 hours. To do what?" "Ask your mother." He stared at me. "Tell her you borrowed for her assessment," I said. "Tell her the payment left you short. Ask her for $612. "I'm not doing that." "Why?" "She'll panic." "So I should." "You don't panic." There it was, plain and almost tender. He did not protect me because he trusted me to survive being unprotected. I transferred the shortfall from our emergency savings because I would not damage my own credit to prove a point. Then I moved the exact amount from my next joint deposit into a separate savings account labeled House Shortfall. I printed both transactions and left them on Dean's desk. Paula called me the following afternoon. "Evelyn canceled the cruise," she said. I sat back in my office chair. "She did?" "No, I did, my half." "I didn't know you had separate bookings." "We didn't." She put the suite on her card and told me what I owed afterward. That sounded familiar enough to make me close my eyes. "I told her I'm not going," Paula continued. "She said you turned me against her. I haven't spoken to you since you returned the picture." I mentioned that. What did she say? That you've become cold. Gina passed my doorway, saw my face, and silently placed a wrapped sandwich on the corner of my desk. Paula lowered her voice. "Ev wants everyone at the condo Sunday. Dean says it's time to settle this as a family. Did Dean invite you?" "Evelyn did." I declined. "Why?" "Because I know what it feels like to be invited to a decision somebody already made." After work, Dean was waiting at the kitchen table. A blank automatic payment authorization form lay between us. "Dinner at Mom's on Sunday," he said. 7 o'clock. I looked at the form. "We're going to talk," he said. "About what?" an arrangement everyone can live with. The old silver key Evelyn had surrendered was still in the junk drawer. I took it out, then found the original brass key with the yellow dot in the pocket of Dean's briefcase. I placed both keys in my purse. "All right," I said. "I'll be there." On Sunday, I wrapped the blue-rimmed platter in the same towel I had used to carry it out of Evelyn's condo. I set it inside a cardboard box with 2 changes of clothes, my laptop charger, medication, and the folder containing our mortgage statements. The box went into my trunk. I left the platter there while I drove to Evelyn's. It felt wrong to bring it back inside, even for an hour. Leonard glanced up from his paperback when I entered the lobby. "Dinner again?" he asked. Apparently, I didn't learn. "They changed the carpet sample." He pointed toward the display. "Less liver, more oatmeal. Progress. That's what they tell us." Upstairs, Dean opened the door before I knocked. He wore the blue shirt I had given him on our last anniversary. Evelyn had put on lipstick and a pearl necklace. The dining table was set for 3 with candles, wine glasses, and a roast arranged in a disposable aluminum pan. My place had the automatic payment form beneath the folded napkin. Evelyn saw me notice it. We thought it would be easier to have everything in front of us. Nothing says family dinner like routing instructions. Dean closed the door. "Can we try not to start that way?" "What way?" He pressed his lips together. The food smelled good. Evelyn had made carrots with honey and thyme, scalloped potatoes browned at the edges, and soft dinner rolls wrapped in a cloth napkin. She had gone to trouble. Trouble was one of the currencies she respected, especially when it was hers. We sat. Dean poured the wine. No toast this time. Evelyn served me the end slice of roast because she knew I liked it. That memory landed differently from the one about the chicken skin. She did know things about me. She had simply sorted them according to usefulness. For several minutes, we spoke about the building. The lobby contractor had increased his bid. A resident on the 7th floor wanted porcelain tile. Leonard had threatened to retire if the new desk did not include a drawer large enough for his lunch. It could have been any dinner before the platter if I ignored the form under my napkin and the old keys inside my purse. Finally, Dean put down his fork. Mom and I came up with a compromise. Evelyn folded her hands. "I'll pay the credit line," he continued. "Mom will reimburse me when she can. You restart the regular condo fee for 6 months, just to give everyone breathing room." I looked at him. "Who is everyone?" "Claire. Your mother has breathing room. She has almost $10,000 in a vacation account." "Not anymore," Evelyn said. "I canceled the cruise." "You canceled it?" Paula withdrew. "I wasn't going alone." "How much did you get back?" "That isn't the point," Dean said. "I'm asking her." Evelyn lifted her chin. "After the penalty, a little over $8,100. "And where is that money now?" "In my account. So you could pay your fees for almost 11 months without touching your monthly income." Her mouth hardened. "That money is all I have that feels like mine." I sat back. For 3 weeks, I had tried to explain why money that felt like mine should not be spent without my consent. She had understood perfectly. She had simply believed the rule applied to her alone. Dean reached toward my hand. I moved it to my lap. "We're not asking forever," he said. "You did last time." "No, we didn't." "Your mother says you promised the association costs would be covered." I said I'd make sure she was secure. "You told me 6 months." "That's what I thought it would take." And when 6 months passed, she was settling in. A year? Dad had only been gone 18 months. 2 years? He picked up his wine and drank. Evelyn said, "Every time he tried to bring it up, you were busy." I almost admired that too. She could turn the absence of a conversation into my refusal to have it. "I manage vendor contracts for a living," I said. "Do you honestly think Dean told me he wanted to make a temporary expense permanent and I was too busy to discuss it?" "You're very intimidating when you talk about money," she said. "I'm 5'6" and I use spreadsheets." "You know what I mean?" "I do. You mean I might have said no?" Dean's palm came down flat on the table, not hard enough to rattle the glasses, but hard enough to end the exchange. "This is exactly what I didn't want," he said. "We are talking about 6 months. I'm asking you as my wife to help me get through a bad stretch. The bad stretch you created by borrowing money your mother already had. I did what I thought was right. And I'm doing what I think is right. That's not a marriage. No. Apparently marriage is when you decide and I finance." Evelyn looked down at her plate. "I never asked him to take out a loan." "You let him pay the assessment. He told me he had it handled. He didn't. I know that now." "Do you plan to give him the money?" Her eyes flicked toward Dean. He answered for her. "We're discussing a repayment schedule." "What schedule? Why do you need every detail?" "Because last week your debt left our mortgage account $612 short." Evelyn's face changed. "You said you could afford the payment." "I can," Dean said. "You couldn't afford your share of the mortgage. It was a delayed commission." She stared at him. For once, he had disappointed the person he usually protected from disappointment. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. Dean looked stunned. "I was trying to help you. I didn't ask you to put your house at risk. No one put the house at risk. I had to cover the shortfall," I said. He turned on me. "From savings, for 1 day. Then I replaced the money myself." Evelyn touched the pearl at her throat. "I can give you the 600. "That isn't the problem," Dean said. "It is one of them." "Mom, stop." She withdrew her hand. I watched them together. Evelyn frightened by consequences but unwilling to surrender the comfort that caused them. Dean angry that his rescue had made him look reckless instead of devoted. They loved each other. That was never in doubt. The trouble was that they had built a private definition of love in which sacrifice only counted if someone else supplied it. Dean pushed the form toward me. "Sign it," he said. 6 months. After that, Mom takes over." Evelyn nodded. "I'll put it in writing." "You put the 6 months in writing the first time," I said. "No," Dean said. "We didn't." "That's why I'm not doing it again." His chair creaked as he leaned back. "So that's it? You're willing to damage our marriage over $742? I reached into my purse and placed the bright silver key beside his wineglass. Then I set down the old brass key with the yellow dot. Evelyn stared at it. "Where did you get that?" "Dean's briefcase." He looked from the key to me. "I was going to return it." "You told me you didn't know where it was." "I found it afterward." "In your briefcase?" "Mom gave it to me." Evelyn spoke quickly. "I thought he should have it." "He had a key to our new lock," I said. "This one has sentimental value now?" Dean asked. "No, it's evidence." "Of what?" "That every boundary I set becomes a problem the two of you solve behind my back." He shoved the keys away. One struck the stem of his wineglass with a bright ping. "For God's sake, Claire, they don't even open the door anymore." "Exactly." He stared at me. "The money isn't the only thing I'm stopping," I said. Evelyn went very still. Dean's voice dropped. "What does that mean?" "I'm staying somewhere else tonight. I want us to meet with a mediator and figure out the house and our accounts." "You're leaving me?" "I'm leaving the arrangement." "Don't play with words." "I'm not." He looked toward the entryway as if he expected to see a suitcase there. "You came to dinner knowing you were going to do this. I came hoping you might ask your mother to use her own money." "That's your condition for staying married?" "No, my condition was that my no mattered. You answered that before I arrived." Evelyn pushed back from the table. "This is between you two." I looked at her. It became between the three of us a long time ago. She carried her plate to the kitchen. Her hands shook when she set it beside the sink. Dean lowered his voice. "Come home. We'll talk there." "We've talked there." "I'll cancel the form." "That isn't the same as understanding why I won't sign it." "I understand. You want control." I almost smiled. "You really don't." "What do you want me to say? That my mother is selfish? That I'm some kind of thief because I borrowed a plate?" "I want you to tell her no." He looked toward the kitchen. Evelyn stood with her back to us, scraping untouched food into the trash. "Not like this," he said. I nodded. That's what I thought. He followed me into the hall. "Claire." I pressed the elevator button. "You can't just walk out." The doors opened. "I've been asking permission to stay in my own marriage for 3 years," I said. "I can walk out once." He did not get into the elevator. When I reached the lobby, Leonard was locking the display case. "That was quick," he said. "Dinner was efficient." He studied my face, then put the key ring in his pocket. "Oatmeal 1, by the way." "Good night, Leonard." Outside, I took the platter from the trunk and moved the box to the passenger seat. The platter rode beside it, buckled in under the towel. I spent 2 nights in an extended stay hotel that smelled faintly of bleach and microwave popcorn. On the 3rd day, I signed a short lease on a furnished apartment 6 blocks from my office. Dean called every evening. The first 2 times, he argued. The next 3, he bargained. He offered counseling, but only after I agreed that leaving the house had been an overreaction. He offered to cancel the credit line, though the assessment had already been paid. He promised his mother would reimburse him, then admitted she had given him only the $612. When I asked if he had told her to take over the monthly fee, he said, "I'm working on it." I stopped asking. Evelyn's first self-paid condo fee arrived late and included a penalty. She called me from the management office. "This portal is impossible." "Leonard can help. He's at lunch." "Then wait until he gets back. You know how to do it." "Yes." She stayed silent long enough to make the request clear. "I'm not doing it for you," I said. "I suppose this feels good." "No, it feels finished. She paid the fee herself. The plumber came back for the kitchen pipe because the first repair had failed. Dean spent a Saturday waiting in the condo while Evelyn went to a hair appointment. The grocery account locked her out again. The insurance company wanted photographs of the electrical panel. Each task found its way to him, and for a while he performed them with furious loyalty. Then the mortgage came due again. We met with a mediator in a beige office above a dentist. There were no dramatic revelations, only forms, balances, and the cost of maintaining a house neither of us could comfortably carry alone. We agreed to list it. Dean moved into Evelyn's den while the house was on the market. She had filled the closet with winter coats and refused to move them, so his suits hung from a rolling rack beside the sofa bed. The arrangement lasted 4 months. By the end of the 2nd month, Evelyn was paying her own fees on time. She increased the rent on the parking space, canceled 2 subscriptions, and began looking at smaller condos without a doorman or rooftop terrace. She complained about every option, but she looked. Dean called me once after a showing at our house. "I thought because you could handle things, they didn't hurt you," he said. I sat on the floor of my apartment with the blue-rimmed platter in my lap. They did. I know. It was the first apology he gave me that did not ask for anything afterward. It was also too late. After the house sold and the last shared account was closed, I invited Gina and Paula to dinner. Paula brought a bottle of wine. Gina brought a salad and announced that she had selected it without modifying anyone else's order. I roasted a chicken with rosemary, pearl onions, and lemon. When it was done, I placed it on my mother's platter. The knife touched the old stoneware with a soft scrape. The cranberry stain still darkened the chip near the handle. Later, I washed the platter by hand and dried it with a clean towel. In the apartment's narrow kitchen, I set it on the front shelf of the cabinet where I could reach it without moving anything else.